Welcome to Cyborg 86. Today we're going to have a look at this Delica four-wheel drive model from DXC, company I've never heard of, but they reached out to me and said they'd send me the product. Full disclosure, they sent it for free if I do a review. So, hey, this is my first review. Let's have a look at this thing. We're going to have a look at it in the shop. Then we're going to take it out and crawl it in a few different situations. And then we're going to tear it apart and look at its guts. Yep, I'm taking her all the way down. This thing really is very scale. Lots of scale details. Some funny signs there, though. Those spare tires say toolbox on them. Not sure I get that, but boy, they did not skimp on the scale details. The headlights there in the front are functional. The ones in the rear are not. Down underneath, we got kind of an odd thing. I'd call this an Achilles heel. It's a switch to shift the transmission from low to high, and it is perfectly placed in exactly the wrong spot. Very unfortunate. Anyway, there's a lot of other good things about this rig, though. The battery sits down low. And let's see here. We got 380 milliamp, so a good-sized battery. Right off the bat, I'm kind of curious about electronics, and I can see down in there it looks like some sort of circuit board. So I'm wondering if it's a decent ESC receiver combo or if it's just a cheapo. We'll see. It has 3-link suspension on each end and very limited travel, but I'd call it scale travel. And so I'd look at this like a scale rig. Certainly not going to be a maxed out crawler, anything like that, but I'd call it a scale rig. Now, the suspension is kind of springy. It has very basic coilover shocks, but being that it doesn't travel all that far, I guess it's not going to bounce like crazy. If it'll crawl slow, then I won't mind that too bad. But if it crawls crazy fast and bounces all over the place, and I don't like that. That doesn't look scale at all. So if it's going to look scale, I want it to drive scale. And we'll see that in a little bit. And looking around a little bit, we got some mirrors on the front. They're kind of delicate. So, but look, they actually have reflecting mirrors, both sides in the front there. That's kind of cool. Also has a snorkel there too. You know, I'm looking at this rig wondering what it would be if it were a real-life vehicle. What would the purpose be? I'm kind of thinking maybe like a chase vehicle for a Baja 1000 race where they kind of chase the racers along, and when they camp at night, they got their tools with them and work on the Baja buggy. Okay, we're out at the park now. Still looks good out here. Very nice. We're going to take and crawl it in some very mild situations. I'm not expecting a whole lot from this, but this is going to be our spot to crawl, this little cobblestone area. We'll crawl a few other spots too, put it in different situations. So you remember how I mentioned that Achilles heel? It's showing up right here. There's a shifter on the bottom of this thing. And when it's forward, it's in low gear. And when you hit a rock in low gear, it shifts it into high or more likely into neutral. So that's kind of frustrating. It actually happened multiple times in this little spot. Every time I would high center on a rock, which is easy to do because that shifter is the lowest point on it, I had to pick it up, shift it back, and then put it down and try again. I do have a couple ideas to mitigate that a little bit. I'll suggest those when I get to the teardown. I was pretty happy with the slow speed on the low gear. The crawl would be pretty good. Here I shifted it into high and I'm trying to crawl it slow. It's a little faster until it hangs up on that shifter again. We'll try another path here. Back in low gear. Reverse wasn't too bad. Sometimes it would lurch, and I wasn't sure why. But most of the time it would do about the same speed as going forward. But sometimes it would just lurch pretty quick in reverse, and I never figured that out. I will say once again that I'm very happy with the slow crawl on this. It's very scale, and that's what I'm after in the scale vehicles, they said. Now I'm just over on the sidewalk, driving around, showing you the steering angle, which is pretty decent. Again, I'd say that's a pretty scale steering angle. I believe this is in high gear, full speed, so not crazy fast and not jiggly bouncing all over on this smooth surface. Still works pretty slow. Got lights up front, no lights in back. Now I'm taking it over to my challenge rock, as I call it. This rock's kind of slick, has little pockets and dimples in it, makes you kind of pick your line. I really enjoy this with my little 136 scales. Was better put in low gear. And I was trying to back it down there. It was going up nice and slow, but when I put it in reverse, it lurched. So trying that out again. So it went up fine in low gear. Now I'm going to back it slow, but it lurched again. Yeah, that switch is in a really bad spot, bottomed out. See if I can, woo. This next spot's on the retaining wall in my backyard. Just showing how slow it'll go, how scale it looks. Something like this is just kind of fun to drive and look at. And I do have a little obstacle. It just happened to be sitting there. This is definitely the more scale obstacle for this rig. Scale rig, scale obstacle. Makes sense, and it's a good match. Okay, I'll show you one more time. Here you go. Okay, so if you live in an area like I do where I gotta drive good ways to challenge the rigs, but you got a little pea gravel, then this can be a realistic looking little crawler. Using reverse here on the flat, it didn't seem to want to surge at all, so it must just be when it's sitting on the slope. That's where I noticed it most anyway. But backing up, it did just fine. Here I'm going to drive it just a little bit faster, show you how it bounces around. And to me, this is not scale driving at all. When you hit it like that, it just bounces everywhere. It looks not at all realistic. So again, the slow crawl, I'm pretty happy with the scale looks there. Last crawl spot is indoors, and my dog Charlie's going to help out, make an appearance. I was just curious if this thing would drift, so I put it in high, and I'm zooming around as fast as it'll go. And with these tires on there, it will break loose just a little bit, but it's certainly not drifting. I kind of doubt it has enough speed to truly drift, even with hard tires on there. I also slammed it back and forth between forward and reverse several times. I didn't hear any clicking or grinding, anything like that. Also, it goes straight from drive to reverse, back and forth. I don't really sense any brake. Well, before we tear it down, here's a few shots of some rigs that you might be familiar with alongside it. Even the little Jabila 136, the tires are almost as big. I was trying to figure out whether to call this a hobby rig or a toy. And so I asked ChatGPT to help me find some spare parts or replacement OEM parts. And it couldn't find any. So as far as that goes, I'd call it a toy with some hobby grade qualities. For example, the links appear to just snap into the frame and aren't screwed in. Yet it has a real nice radio that's commonly featured with hobby rigs, just like this FMS on the right. I did notice that it only takes 2 AA's where the FMS takes 4 AA's, so range might be limited. And the receiver ESC combo has connectors just like the FMS, and has wiring going to a circuit board, which then goes to the lights. I'm guessing that little circuit board has resistors in it. Also, I can trace the wires back to the motor, and there's a connector that goes to a hobby grade battery. Also, the motor looks hobby grade, just like you'd find in an FMS. The drivetrain looks pretty sturdy. I don't know if it'll fit with any of our SCX24s or FMS products. Axles are decent, but I didn't open them up. Steering link's plastic, has a hobby grade servo and a servo saver built in, kind of like the axials come. One of the things about toy grade is they tend to be throwaway if you break them. And here, I think if the drivetrain broke or if something more serious in the drivetrain broke, like the transmission, you'd probably end up throwing it away, but you could salvage the ESC and use it in another. I did pull out the transmission because I was curious, and it was not an easy task. I had to go through a lot just to get the body off. The body was a hard part. It's not real serviceable, so I put that in the toy category as far as serviceability. For example, you can't even get to the shocks with the body on, so you got to take the body off to get to those. And now the transmission's open, and boy, they lubed it up good. So that's a plus. So back to the Achilles heel, that shifter. A little slider just pushes a gear over, and that shifts the gears. So I'm tempted to just cut the thumb piece off of there and glue it in low. I don't anticipate driving this very fast. Keeping it in a higher gear is not really a problem because the shifter is shifted towards the back to be in second gear. So that's not an issue because you catch a snag and it'll just shove it back. So it's hanging up on stuff when you're driving slow. That's the problem. One other thing you could salvage if something irreplaceable breaks would be the body. If you're a builder or hobbyist, you could transfer this body over to an SCX24. I just sat it on a bare chassis here for this photo. Tires held on with one Phillips screw and doesn't appear to be interchangeable with anything I currently have. And as far as price goes, this rent's about $70. They do have a coupon if you apply there at Amazon. I'm using a link here that was sent to me by the person who reached out to me. So who might like this rig? I think somebody who doesn't have a lot of rocks to go crawling on. Somebody who maybe lives in central Iowa, like me, and just has pea gravel to drive on or occasional rock here and there, maybe the driveway, that kind of thing. Somebody who likes to drive a scale-looking rig at a scale-looking speed, because this definitely does that. For me, I'll hang on to this thing. I think I like driving it like this once in a while. But I definitely have some more capable rigs, and I don't mind hopping in the car to go places. And it's good to know I can steal some parts off of it now and then if it ever does break. And finally, it sure is nice to have around. Just gorgeous looking at. Well, I appreciate your watching, and happy crawling.